So I don't know about you guys, but growing up, I personally had trouble sleeping a lot of times. Like especially ever since I would say maybe 15 or 16. I remember in high school, like either my room would be really hot or like I just couldn't really rest, or maybe I was stressed about like school or whatever, maybe stressed about life. And I try to go into like the spare bedroom or even sometimes downstairs where it's cooler and try to fall asleep. Sometimes it would help, sometimes it wouldn't, but um man, I used to dread going to bed sometimes. Like I'd lie there in bed, lights off, the phone's down, I'm not looking at it, and my mind would not shut up. It would not shut off. Whether it's just anxiety about the future, the pressure of being a man, whatever it may be, I could fall asleep physically exhausted, but mentally, right, I was wide awake. And I'm just sitting there stuck in the same cycle, whether it's maybe it's a combination of being a little too impatient, or maybe it's me feeling that I should be further ahead by now, or maybe I feel like I'm wasting time on this idea or worrying about what if it never works out. But if any of you guys ever had nights like that, you're not crazy, you're not broken, right? But something might be slightly off. And I'm going to talk a little bit of how to go about fixing it. I'm by no means a sleep expert, and I still struggle with this to this day to some extent. I'm not going to talk about, sleeping pills or anything like that, but I'm going to talk about a little bit what's changed in my life and how I was able to improve my sleep and how I've been sleeping the best I ever had in my life the last, I'd say about 3 months. So the analogy I like to use is like your brain is like a browser, right? When you're working on something on your computer and you have like a million tabs open and your computer starts to be a little slower, every unresolved thought is a new tab. So I've struggled with what modern medicine calls ADHD my entire life. And I think a lot of people, especially the younger generation, struggles with it to some extent. But, I have a very short attention span. I have a hard time focusing on tasks at hand. And, I never wanted to go on medication for that. I'm not anti-medicine per se, but I, for the most part, am against prescription medication because I don't think it necessarily solves the root cause of the problem, at least in most cases. And I was watching something by Gary Brecka one time. He's a pretty famous biologist, actually, and he has a lot of good content out there about sleep, exercise, things like that. And he was talking about how ADHD, basically what's happening is your mind isn't able to process all of the excessive thoughts coming into your mind all throughout the day. And I would notice this, right? I'd be working and I'd be thinking about my girl. I'd be thinking about my friends. I'd be thinking about what happened with this email. What happened with this call? Is this prospect? Did they show up to this meeting? What are my parents doing today? What are the guardian? What's happening today? It's like I'm thinking of all these different things at once, and quite frankly, you're setting yourself up for failure because your brain cannot process 200 different thoughts at the same time. So I had this revelation recently. And I heard someone say this to me, so I didn't make this up, but they said fear is false expectations appearing real, right? And I've had this before a lot of times in my life where I'd go to bed, I'd be thinking about a lot of different things as I'm trying to go to sleep, about whether it's business stuff, whether it's relationship stuff, whether it's stuff about, when I used to be in school, things of that nature. And I'd constantly be worrying about it. And not only does it not matter fully because like I should be trying to go to bed, right? But I'm actually it's actually a net negative, and so I've basically the first step that I've taken to get better sleep is I've established a rule that once I hit that pillow, I'm done thinking about anything business related. I'm done thinking about anything job related. Whatever happens, I can deal with it in the morning. And that's one thing I've implemented in my life, and I've actually seen an increase in terms of how fast I can fall asleep because and it sounds easier said than done. It seems really straightforward, but it's actually quite difficult to fully do because it's like ingrained in my DNA to want to always think about improving things, think of solutions for problems, but you have to give your mind rest. Just like when you go to the gym, you bench press, you squat, you work out your muscles, and then you feed it and rest it. Same thing with your mind. Your mind feeds off rest. Your mind needs rest. So you need to give your mind a rest day, aka sleep, just like you give your muscles a rest day. And the real reason why a lot of you guys can't sleep is it's not necessarily just the caffeine, which, that can affect it still, but it's not just the caffeine. It's not always the phone. You can't sleep because you're not at peace with how you spent your day. You can't sleep because you're not at peace with the decisions you're making day to day. Deep down, you avoided the hard stuff, wasted time, or stayed stuck in the same loop that you've been stuck in for the last couple years. And I used to get stuff done all day, but it was mostly a distraction. Checking boxes doesn't create peace, progress does. So when your actions don't align with your purpose, your brain knows it and punishes you almost at night. It's like, well, I know deep down that I didn't necessarily get what I had to done, so I'm still thinking about it. So this ties into my original point. You shouldn't think about tomorrow's tasks necessarily as much when you're going to bed, but at the same time, if you focus on actually putting in the work and accomplishing everything you need to accomplish in that day, you wouldn't worry so much about it. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? It's not necessarily worrying about those things, but at the same time, making sure you're doing those inputs day in and day out that will make you sleep better. And one thing that I've been implementing a lot, so I referenced caffeine briefly on here. One thing that's helped me a lot is actually trying to, I wouldn't say completely cut out caffeine because I still use it. I would say I drink probably 2 cups of black coffee a day, which is around 200 milligrams of caffeine. But I try to only drink caffeine like before, I'd say, like 2 p.m. at the latest. Caffeine has a half-life of, I believe, around 8 hours. So basic math, that would mean that if you drink a cup of coffee at 4 p.m., you're going to have half that amount in your system still at midnight. So even though I work out later in the day normally, like late afternoon, it's normally when I hit the gym, I try to have my last bit of caffeine around like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. at the latest. Reason being is I have noticed that if I drink it too later in the day, that it will affect my ability to fall asleep. And another thing that I've been implementing as well is morning and evening sunlight intentionally and movement. So the last half year, but especially the last 3 months, I've been implementing a lot more movement. Like I'm still weight training regularly, but I'm also averaging about 11K steps a day. I've upped my step count. I'm getting steps in the early morning with the sun as well as at night. And I have noticed that sun exposure in the morning and at night has helped me tremendously with my sleeping ability. I've slept a lot better. And I definitely believe that has a direct correlation to that. And there have been studies that have shown that as well. The fourth thing that I've done to help improve, this all ties together, but I have lights in my house that basically turn into like red lights late at night every day at 8 p.m. automatically. And the other lights I shut off. So as it's getting later towards bed, I try to have like a wind down routine, right? I turn all the lights off, I put on the red lights, and I really just try to relax. I don't know if any of you guys meditate. I'm not like a monk. I'm not sitting there meditating for 6 hours a day, but I do intentionally try to meditate for minimum just like a quick 10 minutes, focus on deep breathing and breathing out. And I've noticed this as well help me calm down before I go to bed. Because like I said, I'm normally a pretty wired guy. Like I'm always wanting to go. And being intentional with getting sunlight in the morning and evening, being intentional with relaxing, winding down at the end of the night, limiting blue light before bed. I also wear blue light glasses, like I'd say a couple hours before bed. And as well with my phone, there's a setting you can do in your phone, which I do as well, where you can actually program your phone to, when you click the power button 3 times, it removes all blue light from the phone. So, I could really make a video if you guys wanted to, but you could just kind of Google how to remove blue light from iPhone or something, and you can do it right in your settings. You can remove the blue light from your phone. I've noticed this has helped as well with me winding down. So if you're struggling to sleep, or if you're struggling to just wind down, the answer might not be necessarily taking a sleeping pill. If you really are struggling, you could supplement some melatonin. I've used it in the past, but I've actually gotten away from melatonin and implemented some of these other things, and I've had more success doing it that way. But, when you live life intentionally and you do these things I'm talking about intentionally every day, I know it will improve the quality of sleep. So, and you guys listening to this, what's keeping you guys up at night right now? Is it a fear of failure? Is it a fear of not making it? Is it maybe thinking you should be farther along? Is it strictly noise or noise externally or maybe internal noise? Drop a comment below. Like I said, I'm try and help you guys in any way I can. But also ask yourself, what is maybe some things during the day I could do to help me sleep better at night? What are some ways that I could maybe stay more intentional with the actions I'm taking each day? But Let me know in the comments. Be honest, no judgment. I'll be replying to as many as I can. And if this helped you, maybe feel free to share it with someone that could maybe get some value out of it. And let's see who else is up at 2 a.m. They might need it to. Level Up Strategy out.